I was about 10 years old when I picked up a camera for the first time. Coming from a really artistic family, I think I was always surrounded by arts and music, so it was quite natural for me, not photography, but just being surrounded by art. I do remember when I first picked up the camera and started photographing my sister and also my friends. I had this one friend who was just destined to be a supermodel, and I think we started walking around the forest to take photos of each other, and it just became quite clear to me that I was the one that was going to take the photos and she was going to be the model. I wasn't interested in being the model, but I also just really wanted to be on the other side of the camera. So I think I just decided there and then that that's what side I was going to be on, and I guess that's when the dots connected for me. I still photograph my sister. She is definitely a muse for life. After the book, we kind of did some fashion stuff together, but when I was younger, it wasn't only my sister that I was photographing. I actually casted girls like on the street when I was 15, and I photographed a lot of my friends growing up as well. That's also going to become a project that I'm working on at the moment. I think the material that I had of my sister was just so vast that I decided that that was kind of like the first thing I would put out. And she is definitely my biggest muse. I feel like my kind of woman is quite specific. Either you like it or you don't, but like that's what I'm into. And I think it's very much about a gaze, a certain face. What I was always trying to do when I was younger was be like a wannabe fashion photographer. And I guess I had my sister and my sort of fake model friends to like fill the top model gaps for me. And it's kind of crazy to think about that now I have all this access to all these amazing models that I absolutely love working with. So I feel really lucky that that has kind of become reality, which is kind of like was always a weird childhood dream of mine. I think sometimes the idea comes first, but I am definitely more inspired by a face or a talent, and that's kind of a character that I can play with and build on. And I feel like on a subconscious level, it probably inspires me the most. If that is not there, I find it really hard to connect it to a story or an idea. My dad is a comedian and a performer.
When I think of London, for instance, I hear music, I hear... Oh, London.
And he was the one always thinking a lot about like clothes in performing, and I don't really know how, but for some reason my parents just developed a huge interest in Japanese design and kind of designer clothing in general, but mostly Japanese. So I think from their 30s or something, they started buying a lot of Comme Garçons and Yohji Yamamoto. They had a lot of vintage Kenzo. They just invested in clothing that is super timeless, and that is something I think that Japanese design definitely presents. I still have a lot of my mom's clothes that she passed on to us. I think for us it was just like a playground, and we had this like room full of clothes that was very fantastical. It just was very inspiring. I don't think we fully understood the sort of quality of it, but we definitely felt inspired by it. And obviously when you use that in a photograph, it already gives a lot of weight and like special sense to the image, because obviously the clothes are just really beautiful. The first few commercial jobs that I did were immediately quite like big jobs, and I think I was also quite naive to think that I could just do my little thing that I was doing, whatever that is, and that wasn't something I ever consciously thought about so hard. And now then you have to put it into a kind of mold, and you have to talk to a lot of people about it and kind of pick it apart and layer it and build it, and there are so many more options, and you have so many more people like that can help you, and light, and just all these different elements that I never really thought about that consciously. So definitely creatively challenging in the sense that you have to work in a different way. You can't be so intuitive. You have to show things to a client, you have to make decisions on set, you can't really like sit on the images. It's just a very different way of working. I'm still definitely working on that, and how my commissioned work connects to my personal work and how I can create one world with that, but also see that it's okay that sometimes it's very separate and it can still be successful in that way. I think what I've just noticed in the last 1.5 years of really working in the fashion industry is that you just have to connect with other creatives that maybe have the same style or have the same ideas on casting, or I don't know, you just find people that suit you and that you get along with. And sometimes you work with someone and you create things that you know you could have never done just by yourself. So I think it's just really nice to bounce ideas of other people and also creatives that have been in the industry much longer than I have, which is just very inspiring. And sometimes you notice it doesn't work that well, and that's okay. It's just about building on those relationships and working more together instead of trying to find 100 people to work with. The ability to make those connections, I just enjoy it a lot, and I feel like it has made my work better. I feel like photographers that last the longest or have the most meaningful careers are not the ones that are trying to be nice, like commercial fashion photographers. Most of them, at least the ones that I find interesting and good, they do something really intricate and raw, and maybe it translates to fashion, so they get picked up somehow and start doing commercial work that can have the same qualities but obviously look more commercial. But I think if you have something really raw to show and to say in the beginning, something really pure, not trying to be like working commercially, but actually trying to make something that is true to you, that is the most meaningful. And I think in the commercial side of the industry, it is sometimes hard because photography becomes this very commercial tool. But I definitely also see a lot of brands working with interesting photographers, respecting their styles, really still putting a lot of effort in like image making, print, not just showing a really flat, superficial thing. I think my advice for those seeking a career like mine in this world today would be to not focus so much on what other people are doing, especially not when you're starting out. If you're at the beginning of a project, don't share too much on social media in the beginning. Really try and keep it kind of intimate until you really know what you would like to put out and what you would like to say. And I think other advice is, once you feel like you have something to say, you can start kind of reaching out to creatives in the fashion industry if that is something that you want. And I've just always tried to be really genuine and try to be myself when I connect to other people, not like we're forming this hierarchy, which I know that there is, and it can be very political, but I try to be just friendly and nice to other creatives, being open about your process, sharing your contacts, sharing your network, sharing your knowledge with other people if they want to know that. And I think that kind of gives you the most freedom, and it's an attitude that definitely comes back to you